Sony might still be working on an actual PSP. Yes, after the somewhat controversial release of the PlayStation Portal, which was Sony's first handheld since the Vita, that was released 12 years prior, a lot of people, including myself, were left disappointed, as this was a streaming-only console. The good news is that some fresh leaks seem to point towards Sony working on an actual PSP. So here's everything that we know about it, right after our sponsor. This video is sponsored by DreamyTech's X30 Ultra, offering the ultimate cleaning experience. More about it later in the video. Okay, so this next-gen PSP news comes from hardware leaker Moore's Law is Dead, who reported that a non-streaming console is in active development by Sony and that it will natively support and play games. He also says that it will have a custom AMD APU and that it is currently in the high-level design phase. Now, these are definitely some exciting news. As you guys probably know, the Portal required a constant internet connection to work, and it was only able to stream PS5 games from your actual PS5 and not from the cloud, which made it incredibly limiting. As unless you had a fast and stable internet connection on both your PS5 and your Portal, this thing was basically a brick. Being able to play games on it natively is really what Sony should have done with the Portal. Luckily, it seems like this is what they're finally doing now. But okay, how reliable is leaker Moore's Law is Dead? Well, he does have a bit of a hit and miss reputation, but he also correctly leaked a number of products way before their release. For example, he got the specs and the price of the Quest 3 spot on a year ahead of its release, which is really impressive. He's also correctly leaked the specs for the Intel i9-14900K, also about a year before its release. So he does seem to have some reliable sources in the industry. And he's also got an established name in the leaking community, with a large number of tech publications quoting him, from Tom's Guide to Notebook Check to Game Rant to Games Radar to Push Square, Insider Gaming, and more. Of course, this doesn't mean that what he's saying is 100% correct. As always with leaks, things can change at any point in time, not even to mention that a lot of the sources are usually from supply chains in China, so a number of things can also get lost in translation. But I think that given the way the PS Portal has been received, as in much higher than expected sales, and also a lot of people disappointed that it cannot play games natively, I think that it would be quite silly for Sony not to look at this and decide to start working on the portable Sony console that everyone's been asking them to do. So okay, let's say that Sony is indeed working on this next-gen PSP. What sort of performance would we be looking at? Well, based on what Moore's saying, this next-gen PSP, or Vita 2, could have a custom AMD APU, which makes sense as Sony is already working with AMD for the APU inside the PS5. With Moore speculating that it could have 18 compute units to maintain backwards compatibility with PS4 games, with the GPU possibly running at up to 1.8 GHz. And what's really interesting here is that this is basically what I was saying in our PSP video from last year when all the PS Portal rumors were happening. That if Sony were to adopt a similar APU to the AMD Zen 2 that we have in the Steam Deck, then they would be able to run pretty much any PS4 game at roughly the same settings and performance as an actual PS4, as the Steam Deck can already do this right now. Of course, the Steam Deck is using a much older chip from 2022. Sony would be using a much newer chip with even more performance than a Steam Deck, hence making this idea of being able to play your PS4 games on the go a very possible reality. Just like the reality of you getting the best robot vacuum on the market. The DreamyBot X30 Ultra is the ultimate robot vacuum and mopping device. One that can intelligently adjust its mop heads with Mop Extend technology to get into those hard-to-reach corners and surfaces. On top of this, DreamyTech's automatic self-cleaning service washes and dries the mop pads inside the base station. And afterwards, the base station also cleans itself to prevent a buildup of bacteria. The X30 Ultra also comes with a variety of cleaning strategies, offering 5 carpet cleaning modes with intelligent AI path finding, which adapts to your environment. And this is aided by their powerful 8300 Pascal Vormax suction, which means that you can expect a high standard of cleaning every single time. And if you've got pets like we do, the anti-tangle Tri-Cut brush is great for cutting hair strands before they clog up your vacuum. Check out the DreamyTech X30 Ultra by using the link below, and if you use the code ZOTDreamy, you also get 12% off until the 14th of March. But okay, back to the whole games idea. is it just PS4 games that you'll be able to play on this next-gen PSP? After all, more and more titles are starting to only release for the current-gen consoles. Spider-Man 2 is PS5 only. Horizon Burning Shores is PS5 only too, and many others as well. And of course, the longer we wait, the more current-gen exclusive games we will see, which in a way kinda makes this unreleased next-gen PSP already redundant, right? Well, not necessarily, as according to Moore, we could see a patch for PS5 games that would allow them to still run on the PSP, although at much lower settings. He did also specify that this wouldn't really work for all games and that it would require per-game testing and per-game patches. Still, I do believe that whatever Sony decides to do with this next-gen PSP, it has to be able to play PS5 games natively, even if that means playing them at 30 FPS and at a 720p resolution. As otherwise, by the time this thing releases, there will be less and less PS4 games around to be able to run on it. Which raises the question, if Sony were to actually release this next-gen PSP, how successful would it actually be? Well, over the past few years, we've seen an increase in portable gaming consoles. The Switch was really the one that kickstarted this whole trend recently, and now we have tons of other options, like the Asus ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion, the AI Neos, and not even to mention the Steam Deck, amongst many, many others. And it's not looking like these companies are going to stop making portable gaming consoles anytime soon. In fact, Valve released the Steam Deck OLED in late 2023. Asus is said to be working on the Ally 2 already, and then MSI is said to be working on the MSI Claw. And we've also had a ton of news on SteamOS coming to more portable consoles, as well as Microsoft's commitment to improving Windows on these handhelds for a better handheld experience. Like, even when I went to MWC last week, I did see a bunch of upcoming handheld consoles. So the demand for these devices has increased dramatically over the past few years, which is why I believe that Sony would be quite successful if they were to indeed release this next-gen PSP. This, combined with the way the PS Portal has been received, does make me think that Sony has very few chances of actually failing. Like, all they need to do is simply avoid the mistakes that they made with the Vita and the Portal. The Vita, for example, used overpriced proprietary memory cards and could not run PS3 or PS4 titles. Instead, it only played its own, to name a few. While the PS Portal, aside from only supporting remote play from your own PS5 as the single method of gaming, it also had other limitations, like not supporting Bluetooth headphones at all, or not allowing you to connect to hotel Wi-Fi networks. I do bet that if they give us a handheld that can run PS4 and PS5 games too, it will be a massive success. Which brings us to the release date. When could we expect this next-gen PSP? Well, according to leaker Moore's Law is Dead, it is at least 2 years away. Not only that, but the project hasn't even been greenlit by Sony yet, so it's just something that Sony is exploring right now, but it may be cancelled unless it gets greenlit. He did also state that this next-gen PSP is seen as part of the PS6 family, possibly even aimed at the Japanese market, as Japan does prefer handhelds to home consoles. As we know by now, the PS6 is rumored to launch in 2027 at the earliest. So based on this next-gen PSP is at least 3 years away, rather than 2. After all, Sony did patent the PlayStation Portal back in 2015, 8 years ahead of its actual release. So it does seem like Sony starts their work on their products many, many years ahead of their actual release. And a 2027 release would indeed leave enough time for mobile APUs to get better and better. And we might even see a portable Sony console that can play all PS5 games without any major limitations aside from, of course, possibly a lower resolution. And personally, I am really looking forward to it. But you know what else I'm really looking forward to? These stunning wallpapers from our new pack, Spiral's Symphony by Arif, that just came out today. Spiral Symphony is one super minimal pack that I'm personally a really big fan of. Like, I absolutely love this purple design, and there's a ton of other really amazing looking ones too. Like this green one right here. I love how the yellow adds a nice bit of accent to it, and then the orange one looks pretty stunning as well, same goes for the pink, and then we've also got some more pastel looking wallpapers too. I think you guys will absolutely love this pack. All 10 designs are available in 8K, so you can use them on your phone, tablets, and desktop. And you can find Spiral Symphony in our app Wallpapers for iOS and Android. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this next-gen PSP. Like, I've had some mixed experiences with the PlayStation Portal. On one hand, when I played it from my home, it was pretty good. I had barely no lag whatsoever. And the same applied to when I played it from my home in Romania, connected to my PS5 here in the UK. However, when I tried using it from coffee shops or hotels or from airports, it was basically unusable. The latency was either far too high off of 5G, or it wasn't able to connect to Wi-Fi because of it not supporting a web browser. And this is why I'm really looking forward to an actual PSP from Sony, as while I do love my Switch, I do also miss playing my big PS5 titles on it. And hopefully that will come very soon. Let me know your thoughts. I'm Daniel, this is me, Son of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.